Right now, Pochettino is feeling the pressure on his neck. His job is potentially on the line, and with that pressure around him, I guess it's only natural that Pochettino feels like it's time to start switching things up and it's time to start focusing on results. Because in today's reports, my friends, it seems like Pochettino is looking to switch things up with the system and with our formation. So in today's video, I'm going to go through the story. I'm going to get in deep. I'm going to analyze, do all that good stuff. So my friends, I hope you guys definitely enjoy. Hit that like button. Let's try and get over 2K likes. Share your thoughts and opinions too. And without wasting any more time, has Pochettino been inspired by Antonio Conte? Because today it's been widely reported that we should expect to see a formation change, and it seems like we could be returning back to using a 3 at the back system. So I guess that's a great heads up for all of us that, you know, something new is on the horizon. Let's just hope that the rest of the league aren't paying attention to today's reports, because it does kind of feel like, you know, we don't have that surprise factor anymore. But at the same time, with how bad we've been this season, is this news being widely reported even making much of a difference? I don't really think so. And naturally, with Pochettino feeling the pressure on his neck and on his dome right now, it's time for him to now start prioritizing results. I'm sure all of you can see the fixture list beside me. We play against Aston Villa on Wednesday. We have 2 London derbies against Palace, Spurs. We play against Man City away from home. And then after that, we have the Carabao Cup final at the end of the month. This is the make or break part of the season. And with so many difficult must-win games on the horizon, I guess it makes a lot of sense that he would turn towards focusing on getting results for the team. And maybe this is where using a 3 at the back system could make the best sense for the rest of this team. Pochettino is going to understand this. If he gets sacked before this season ends, his PR in Europe absolutely goes down and is stuck in the mud. It'll be difficult to get a job of this magnitude again, and patience is currently wearing thin around Pochettino. Now currently there are rumours circulating that Pochettino has been debriefed, and I think after seeing his reaction in the post-match press conference after Wolves, he looked very uncomfortable. He did not look in control. He looked quite nervous in my opinion. Now the rumour suggests that there are currently differing opinions around the manager right now, with some people at the top believing that it's time to move on Pochettino. They're very disappointed by the lack of progression in this team. They're disappointed by the lack of improvement in the players. The data is showing the fact that there's zero improvement whatsoever, whilst on the other hand, people believe that Pochettino may need more time, and I think a lot of that relies upon the fact that there is no instant replacement to turn to in the market right now. I don't think we fully prepared ourselves to find replacements for Pochettino in this season right now. So if you sack him, you're repeating the failures of last season. You're hiring any interim manager, and an interim manager won't be improving things realistically. So my belief is, if there was a concrete replacement for Pochettino, then maybe he would have been sacked already by now. Now, there are currently 2 names floating around behind the scenes. One is Hansi Flick, but some reports today suggest that he is currently learning Spanish because he is open to that Barcelona job. And for the other manager, that is Michel, the current Girona manager, who's doing phenomenal things with them. It's such like a beautiful season they're having. I guess it's no surprise that we'd be turning our attentions to a forward-thinking manager like this. It's not as easy as just sacking the manager though, because for every manager you sack, we become less and less attractive to the very best managers around. And we have to keep things real. There's top jobs available this summer. You're looking at Liverpool, you're looking at Barcelona, potentially Bayern. So many clubs. I don't think money is going to be able to do all the talking that it once was in prior seasons. Anyway, I think now's the perfect time to start talking about what this 3-4-3 could look like and whether it is the final solution to solving all our season's problems. Now, personally though, I love how 3-4-3 is always the go-to at our football club during times of difficulty. Personally, my observation I've noticed is that whenever we use a back 4 system, you know, we kind of lean towards using 3 at the back principles. And you notice that in terms of like the patterns of play, the distances between players, the positioning of these guys, you know, we attack in like a 3-2-5. Maybe by using 4 at the back in a very old way, because when I see more successful teams that use a 4 at the back system, you notice that The distances are a lot shorter, players are closer to each other, there are more players deeper in the build-up phase, they overload the width better, and they use the wide areas better as well too. Poch has tried to make things work. I don't think he's done it perfectly though. We all know this, but with a cup final looming on the horizon, you know, it's time that this team learns how to start winning again, because my ultimate fear is this: all we know is losses over this past 18 months, and we risk breeding a loser culture and loser mentality at our football club. So the question is, why would Pochettino now decide to revert back to using a 3-4-3? He may be taking inspiration by using a similar system with his Spurs team, and at one point, that Spurs defense was seen as one of the best defensive units in the league, you know, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Rose, Walker, etc, etc. Now, I'm going to explain things in greater detail later on, but I need to give a very quick disclaimer. We have to keep things real, my friends. Obviously, let's not fall into this trap of thinking that this formation change by itself will single-handedly turn our fortunes around. Let's not forget that 3-4-3 stopped working for us before we try to do something different. But that doesn't mean that if we use it right now, there aren't small benefits from using this approach. Now, this lineup is based on the current selection of players we have at our disposal, and as you guys are seeing up front, Nicholas Jackson behind him, Nkunku, Palmer, wingbacks Ben, Gusto, Caicedo and Enzo midfield, or you could swap Caicedo for Gallagher if you want, and defense of Batty on the left, Silva in the middle, and Disasi right inside. But in my opinion, I hope that Gallagher gets fit enough, because I think he'd be a better wide centre back on the right hand side compared to Disasi, and obviously Petrovic being in goal. We start with Nico, and in a system like this, you need to have a focal point up front. I think he's a great focal point for this system because he can make runs into the channel on the right hand side, left hand side, but most importantly, Nico can hold the ball, and he has the ability to drop deeper to link up with the rest of his teammates. Now, it's a shame because Nico has done this quite well throughout the season, but he's never really had those partners in crime that can take advantage of the spaces that he's opening up. The supporting triangle is key. If Nico drops deeper, the main benefit is this disorganizes the opposition's defensive lines and it helps create spaces in behind. So when you have Nkunku being the more offensive player of the front three, you're creating spaces for Nkunku to make those late arrivals to punish teams. Nkunku has world-class finishing. Nkunku is very good in tight spaces with his great close control. He has an excellent timing of movement and understanding of space as well too. If you can free up this whole left zone here for him to give him that license and freedom to operate anywhere he wants in this area, this is actually his most effective area of the field, and this is where he plays his best football. So I can see something working here, whilst on the other side you have Cole Palmer being the more supportive player of the front three. With Cole Palmer, of course, you can have options where Nico and Nkunku, they can be acting as a front two in a sense, allowing Cole Palmer the license and freedom to roam inside, to pick these guys out with his great through balls and weighted passes. Now in the build-up phase, either one of Nkunku or Cole Palmer, they can act as a third man midfield player depending on where the ball is by dropping a bit deeper as well too, to give us that extra, you know, presence to help us build up with our football. So there's a lot of synergy that I can see from a front three like this, and I actually think this front three actually really complements each other's playstyles. Now, the main responsibility of this system is the wing-back support. Obviously, these guys will hold the width. They'll, you know, make those runs in behind. They have to time their runs perfectly to create that makeshift front five up front for us. And if I'm being honest with you, I think if Pochettino had the license to use all these guys together a lot more, I think by now we'd already be seeing them playing together, and he would be using a similar front three. So this is the perfect time right now to play everyone together, and hopefully we start to see the benefits of using a system that helps our deficiencies in the team. And those main deficiencies tend to be all these areas on the field. Number one, we're constantly leaving spaces in behind right here. And number two, there's always such a massive gap between our defense and our midfield. It's no surprise why we get penetrated by teams between the lines. It's no surprise why we're so susceptible to counterattacks in behind down these wide areas. It has to improve. Now that we understand how we could play in the system, I think it's time to end things by understanding the benefits we can receive from reverting back to a 3 at the back system. And I think the key one is simply this: using a 5 at the back system should finally mean that we can match up against opposition. For example, look at this picture on screen. The Liverpool game with that recent loss was the prime example of everything that we do wrong tactically, and Liverpool destroyed us every single time by taking advantage of our tactical weaknesses and deficiencies. You can see how tight and narrow the team is. You can see the spaces we leave out wide, but you can see how susceptible the fullbacks are to overloads down their side. At times it's a bit too much. In this example, Ben has 3 options around him: someone on the outside, someone near him, and someone between the spaces between him and the defender. There is no fullback in the world who is that good they can consistently deal with 2v1s and 3v1s. When you see that, it means that the system is leaving your team susceptible. And this is why I think a 5 at the back can help us, because it finally means that we can now match these teams man v man. The other main benefit being that Thiago Silva now can do what he does best, and that is covering the spaces in behind for his teammates with his world-class reading of the game. Physically, he can't eat the yards up anymore to double up with his left back, but the way he thinks is still very elite. We can't take that for granted. And if he's protected by a left-sided defender, a right-sided defender as well too, plus wing-backs that can go man v man against a winger, that's going to allow him to control our defence and marshal those spaces in behind. There's going to be times where your fullback is going to get beat, but a lot of times you need that defender in behind who can, eat the yards up and obviously save the day. But you can't do that if you have a slow defence of Silva and Disasi. And I think the other main benefit being is that we should finally close the distances between our defence and our midfield, because I think Caicedo is not an elite defensive midfield player right now. We have seen his weaknesses, but you can't further expose them. We can't allow him to be defined by them. Enzo Fernandez is not the type of guy that can, save the day defensively as well. But I think that if they're playing tighter and closer together, knowing that they have 3 defenders behind them that are not too far from them position-wise, that can help create that solid core in the middle, which is the key thing. And instead of using a 4-4-2 structure off the ball where Conor Gallagher's pressing up front alongside the striker, I won't be surprised to see us become 5-4-1 off the ball, to be honest with you, with Nkunku moving wides, Palmer moving wides, with the main benefit being that we can finally now match teams man v man out wide. Now yes, of course, players are going to need to have to work hard off the ball, track runners, all that good stuff, but at least you can minimize how susceptible we are to overloads. Now that's my thoughts behind the systems, but to end things with my quick conclusion on things, listen, if we use a 3 at the back system, it doesn't mean we're going to play the same way as we did with Thomas Tuchel. Of course, there are some little interesting observations though. I think the main criticism of Tuchel was how, one-dimensional the attack became. For all the qualities that Mount and Havertz and co had, maybe, things like imagination, things like working in tight spaces wasn't always like their strongest points. And I guess it wasn't really helped by the fact that the system was very, very static and relied too much on automatisms which got figured out by the opposition. So I guess by having like your Nkunkus and your Cole Palmers, these are 2 new profiles playing in behind a striker that we haven't seen for a long time. And also finally, it'll be very interesting to see how Pochettino will set up the defensive structure of the team. As we've seen, he's prioritized using a mid-block setup, but it is leaving us exposed on the counter-attack. We aren't winning enough pressures in the opposition's half enough. Could he decide to drop our lines a bit deeper where we soak up a bit more pressure, knowing that we have additional support behind us to allow us to focus more on playing on the transition, which originally was the main selling point of Mauricio Pochettino. It was the quick counter-attacks and transitional football, and that's how he made his name at Tottenham, at Southampton, Espanyol, and all these clubs. I'm not here to say that we're going to start instantly winning things. I'm going to start climbing up the table. But I am here to say that at least some of these tweaks could address some major concerns tactically that this team suffers with. And if players don't feel fully and properly prepared in game, you're going to see those defeats like Liverpool. You're going to see those defeats like Wolves and many others that we've seen throughout this season. So my friends, that's the video today. Share your thoughts and opinions about how you're feeling on things. I hope you guys enjoy and hit that like button as well too. I'm EFC, this is Blue Lions TV. See you guys later with some more videos. Cool, man.